Hi guys!
Hey, what's going on you guys? My name is Billy.
I'm Sierra.
And this...
Come here. It's Jenny.
Say hi. In this short video, we're going to talk to you guys a little bit about our sailboat safety gear, specifically for offshore sailing. My name is Billy. This is Sierra. And this is our dog Jetty. And this is Adrenaline, our full-time floating home and office. Join us as we sail, surf, swim, dive, fish, and kiteboard through new and exotic places every day. Make sure you subscribe below and sit back and enjoy.
We just did a big long sail from St. Croix to Grenada, so we thought it would be a perfect time for this explanation.
If you guys want to see a little more detail about this kind of thing, Sierra wrote an awesome blog article. The link will be right in the description. It'll be a little more in-depth of all the gear that we're going to show you and talk about.
But we have come up with two separate lists. A list that we have and that we use all the time, and a list that we think is probably a good idea to have, and it's kind of on our wish list.
And the first list is kind of like what we think is the absolute necessary equipment for the most part. Like, probably shouldn't be sailing offshore without this stuff, even though legally you can, and you can safely still, but it's just cheap insurance to safely sail offshore. So,
okay, so the first item on the list is pretty simple. You technically can't be boating without it, and that's all the standard Coast Guard requirements for your size boat. The list of everything that you need is going to be in the description.
And this is stuff that actually is illegal to operate a boat without.
In addition to the Coast Guard requirements, specific states sometimes have additions. We'll also put a list of all the where you can find all the state requirements too.
The next item on our list after the required Coast Guard requirements are PFDs. This actually is a Coast Guard requirement to have PFDs on board. You're supposed to have at least the number of people you have on your vessel, right?
Yep, and they have to fit each person on your vessel. It can't be like you have a kid and you have an adult jacket. You have to have a kid jacket for a kid.
When we're sailing offshore, it's really important for us to have PFDs that are really comfortable, kind of slim fitting, so that's easy to move around on the boat, and it doesn't discourage us from wearing them offshore.
And they don't get in the way. If we're trying to reach here, this isn't like constricting us in any way. The other great thing about this life jacket, I don't know if you guys watched that Crew Watcher video, but it has automatic inflation. If
it gets submerged.
Yes.
Not if it gets wet, because we've had it get wet. We've been in rain and spray and stuff, and it hasn't inflated on us. But if it gets submerged, it will inflate.
I experienced that the hard way.
Another thing that we like about these PFDs is that it has these little loops that are built into the PFD that allow us to clip into our next safety item, which is our tether and jacklines.
In addition to our life jackets, we also have Jetty on board. She's hanging out in the shade. But we have two different life jackets for her. This one's brighter, so it's easy to see, and it has what it feels like a little bit more flotation.
Definitely more flotation.
But it gets really hot. It doesn't hold water. So we have this one, if it's super hot out and we're in rough conditions, and she's outside for some odd reason, it holds water. It doesn't like just drain.
So it's like a neoprene material, so it'll keep her cooler. But it is a little bit thinner. It's easier for her to move around in, but it definitely has a little bit less flotation.
Yeah, still has a nice handle, still has little reflective tape. If it's rough, she prefers to be inside anyways.
The extra PFDs that we do have are the big bulky orange PFDs for an emergency situation. They just are fail-proof. They're bulky, so you wouldn't want to wear them around offshore, like walking around the boat and sail handling and all that stuff, but they're great to have for an emergency. So let's move on to the tether and jacklines that we hook onto our PFDs so that if we were to ever lose our balance on board, we wouldn't fall overboard and we wouldn't have to use our PFD. So if we know we're going offshore, we will rig our jacklines beforehand. We just use 1/4-inch Dyneema for our jacklines. It's got a breaking strength of over 7,500 pounds, so it's super, super strong. And then our tether is also 1/4-inch Dyneema that I just spliced on a couple loops on each end. And I have a stainless steel clip that makes it really easy to clip into our PFD with a built-in harness. And then we just have a soft shackle on this side. It's a huge soft shackle, way oversized. But it's really light, it doesn't smash around on deck and chip paint and everything like that. And it just slides really easy, nice and down the Dyneema. So if I'm ready to go on deck, I can just make sure I'm clipped in, come on deck. onto the bow and access stuff up here, but not be too far where I can fall overboard. If I have to do any work up on the mast, we generally have another tether that's attached to the mast, so I'll just come over here, I'll clip into this tether, unclip on this, and that way I'm safely held to the mast. So we just have the same setup on both sides, a jack line all the way up to the front, same thing on the other side. We always leave the tether attached on each side. Super easy to clip in, super easy to put back there. And you just want to make sure jack lines are attached to a really strong point on the boat. Here's a solid cleat with a backing plate. Same thing on the front is a really solid point that will not break. And that's just to prevent you from falling overboard, or if you do have enough slack where you can actually fall overboard a bit and you go through your lifelines, then at least you're still attached to the boat and you could hopefully pull yourself back up.
Another thing we like to have attached to our PFDs is a crew watcher. We mentioned watch the crew watcher video to see the life jacket inflate, but this is something we also always keep on them. It is a Bluetooth activated man overboard device. So it connects to our iPad and each one of us has one. So if we were to get too far from our central iPad, we get an alert. It goes on our speaker system so everyone knows that someone is missing. The crew watcher also activates our alarm system if it is submerged. If it gets rained on, it does not go off, but if it is submerged completely, it will activate. We don't have an actual MOB system connected with AIS, so this is what we use for now. It's an affordable option, and if you have the money and that is an option for you, definitely go with a complete AIS system. But this is great for people on a budget. It's also great for anyone who wants a backup to their MOB system.
The next thing we have on our list is a ditch kit. Now you can use a waterproof bag, you can use a sealed barrel or drum, but it's important to have something to grab if you have to get off the boat and go, if your boat is sinking or on fire, God forbid. So we have this LifeCell ditch kit. It's really hard, it's got really nice seals, and we store all our ditch kit supplies in here. We actually made a whole video of what's in our ditch kit, so we'll link to that below. And the LifeCell actually also floats on its own, so it can be used as a flotation device in and of itself. And it's got some cool handles for that. So attached to our ditch kit is our EPIRB. So this is the EPIRB one from Ocean Signal. It's the smallest EPIRB on the market. It mounts perfectly to the side of our LifeCell ditch kit. So an EPIRB is a device where in an emergency you can activate it. It'll send off a distress signal to satellites, and the proper rescue organization will be notified and hopefully come to your rescue, God forbid you ever have to activate an EPIRB. A few quick things about this EPIRB. The battery life on this thing is 48 plus hours once it's activated, and the battery lasts for 10 years if not activated. And this EPIRB has a manual release, so we do have to manually take it off its mount, but if it's fully submerged, it will automatically activate itself. Like I said, it's small and it's got an extendable antenna. I don't know if I should pull it out or not, but it keeps it small and tidy. We keep it in an easy to access place just in case of an emergency. It's really not a bad idea now that EPIRBs are so affordable to have multiple EPIRBs on a boat, or EPIRBs in combination with PLBs, which we'll get into. This thing is like under $500. I think it's 400 bucks, but still, for safety reasons, like if you have the budget, 2 of them is really not a bad idea, and they can be stored anywhere. One other thing that we never leave without is our satellite tracker, and this is an inReach DeLorme, and it's worked great for us. Doesn't Garmin make it now or something? Yeah, now it's owned by Garmin, but it has the ability to text back and forth. We can't call, it's not a satellite phone, but we can text back and forth with our families and also with SOS rescue services. So if, God forbid, for some situation we have to press the SOS button, they can let you know what's going on, who's coming to help you, the time frame, but you can also give them updates. If a situation changes, you can let them know, they can alter their plan, do whatever they need to do. It also has the tracking capabilities. We receive a link, we send it to whoever wants to track where we are, and we can set specific time frames of when they get a ping to track us, and they can follow us throughout our journey. So that is awesome. It's not like an EPIRB. An EPIRB, you don't need a subscription.
satellite trackers, satellite phones, you need a subscription. So we pay, I think, $20 a month. Basic, we get like 20 text messages, unlimited tracking. So there's different plans for that, but just know if you have a satellite tracker, you need to make sure your plan is up to date or else it will not work. The nice thing about this is it also has the option to give us weather. It can give us the marine forecast, it can give us general weather, and it's based on your location. So gets your coordinates, sends you the information, but that is an extra charge. We have also used a device similar to this called Spot, and we love that too. We used that for 3 years, but it finally corroded many years out in the saltwater. So those are two options, InReach or Spot Tracker. They both have two-way texting if you get the newest Spot, and tracking options.
The next thing we want to talk about is a VHF. This is how we communicate on the water. It used to be bells and whistles and horns. Now everyone communicates with VHF. It can prevent a bad situation. It can be just for general communication. Channel 16 is the general hailing and distress channel, so we're almost always on 16. And this is our built-in GPS where we have an antenna on top of the mast and it has a longer range. But even when we're going out on our dinghy, even if we're going for super short distances, we always bring our handheld GPS. They're so cheap and easy to carry around. There's no reason not to have it. God forbid our dinghy engine broke and we're getting blown offshore in the Caribbean here. We want to be able to call someone, and it's a great backup on your big boat as well. We actually have two of these. One stays in our ditch kit, and then this one is our regular handheld that just lives out here for easy access or backup. So we have a super simple model VHF that came with the boat. You actually can hit the distress button and it's another emergency activation system if it's hooked up to a GPS. A lot of the other models will even have like a built-in AIS system, which is awesome. You can also get weather through VHF if you're in range with someone broadcasting weather or a weather channel. As with a lot of our safety stuff, especially the electronics, there's a lot more that these things can do. We're just scratching the surface of these electronic safety devices, but VHF is important. At least, even if you're on a little tiny boat, have a handheld. So something else that's on our list, just because we have it, I don't necessarily consider it a total necessity for safety equipment, especially in the areas where we cruise, because we rarely use it and we've never had a radar before, but it can be very useful. But that's radar. This is an old Raytheon system. We rarely use it, to be perfectly honest. Maybe we would use it a lot more if we're in different cruising grounds, like maybe New England where it's foggy often. And then if you're in those cruising grounds all the time, then maybe I would consider it almost a necessary piece of safety equipment. I just want to mention that it's at least very useful and it can be absolutely necessary.
Even with having all the safety equipment on board, something else that is super important is to have a float plan. A float plan is pretty much letting someone know, someone very reliable, that you're going on a trip, where you're going, when you should arrive there, and if you're not there by this time, they need to call someone and let them know that there's an issue. The Coast Guard provides a float plan template where you can fill out all the most important information that any rescue service would need to know. All the information about your boat, all the information about your crew, your contact info, where you were going and when you expected to be there. If you were to have to activate your EPIRB, they know something's wrong, but if they go to this float plan, they know who they're looking for, they know what they're looking for, and it just helps everything go quicker and more efficiently. So something we learned from On the Wind podcast is you can put all that information on a private link on our website, and we give it to multiple people. We give it to Billy's dad, Billy's mom, my parents, even a friend. So there's backup people, and it's an easy place to send. Hey, Coast Guard, you're looking for Billy and Sierra, here's a link, go to it. All the information is right there. Also, on your EPIRB, when you register it, there's a place to put information about your boat, pretty basic stuff, not as detailed as the float plan, but you can also put in additional notes, the link to your website or the link to your float plan, so they have that information as soon as that EPIRB activates. Those items mentioned are what we have and what we think we shouldn't leave without.
In addition to those things, there's a few things on our wish list, and these are things that honestly it's just about budget.
They're important. If you have money, you should have them.
The first one is AIS. All commercial vessels are supposed to transpond this AIS signal, and you can receive this signal and see exactly what's around you and click on that. You can see what kind of boat it is, how fast they're going, your closest point of approach, all this information, even more detailed from what you could get on radar. You can also have an AIS transponder on your own boat so that these vessels around you can also see your boat. But at the very least, a receiver is great to have. It's on our wish list, and a transponder is even better in addition to the receiver.
With that AIS, you can also use an MOB system. You clip it to your life jacket, clip it to your PFD. If you fall over, your boat, your AIS system has your location. The fastest way to rescue someone is with your own boat. You're not waiting for the Coast Guard, you're not waiting for any extra sources. The person at your boat is going to turn around and know exactly where you are.
The MOB stands for Man Overboard System, and it's all through AIS.
Another similar thing to that is a PLB,
which is even closer in similarity to probably an EPIRB. A PLB stands for a personal locator beacon. It's like a mini EPIRB pretty much that each person would wear on their PFD, and it's just more redundancy. If someone fell off, it could be like a man overboard type thing. If their own boat couldn't find them, at least they have a signal to satellite where rescue services might be able to locate them. And it's great to have because if an EPIRB did fail, or if you wanted redundancy in your EPIRBs, it's another satellite signaling system that activates emergency services. They're a little bit smaller, they're a little bit cheaper.
The battery life is not as long because they're smaller. One thing that we do not have, which is probably one thing that a lot of people would say never leave without, is a life raft.
Now, us being on a lightweight multi-hull, there's controversy on this. Life rafts are probably always good to have, honestly. It couldn't really hurt unless it's gonna get in your way in an emergency situation or tempt you to leave your boat when it's still floating. In those cases, that's a bad thing to have. You should never leave your boat if it's still floating, even if it's upside down, which is the most common scenario in a multi-hull. A lot of multi-hull experts argue that in that scenario, if your boat does flip, you're better well spending your time and budget to make sure that your boat is livable and you can access safety equipment while it's capsized, rather than investing in a life raft. So there's different thoughts on that. Life rafts are super expensive and you have to service them every few years. If we had all the money in the world
and we had more space, we don't have a lot of space, and a perfect spot to keep it, we would have one. We should have one.
The only other scenario where you might have to leave your boat on a life raft is like a fire or an explosion or something. In that scenario, we do have our dinghy, which is inflatable, and we could use that as a life raft. Our boat is foam cored, so it's virtually impossible to have it sink completely. If we had another boat, say a monohull with a lead keel or old trawler, it would be much, much more important to have a life raft, because if that boat did capsize or if it did start taking out a lot of water, it's gonna sink. There's no way around it, pretty much.
And we did have a life raft on Neverland. Yeah, we borrowed one from his parents. Those are things we wish we had. Those are things that are on top of our list. As soon as we get a little extra money, we are going to purchase those and add them to our safety equipment.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, we kind of just scratched on the surface of all the necessary things we think to be able to sail or even boat offshore, really. There's a lot more to a lot of things we said. Again, we'll have some more information in Sierra's blog article on our website in the link in the description. But let us know what you guys think.
Is there anything else that you guys wouldn't go offshore in the boat without?
Even if it means not going offshore until you get the budget to get these things. Let us know if there's anything like that for you. Do we have anything that's overkill that you would go without?